I know most of you on the call. For those who don't know me, I'm Sam, and I work alongside the regional leadership team based in Singapore. On behalf of all of them, first of all, just wanted to express our deep gratitude to all of you for the tireless work you're continuing to do, not only to keep the businesses operating, but to keep colleagues and clients connected, motivated, engaged, and all of this on top of the strains and stresses of navigating our own personal lives through this time. From a lot of the conversations I've been having with people, I think most people have been operating on autopilot. And that's really what brought this program around. We wanted to give you all the chance just to stop and think about yourselves for a moment, how this is impacting in you, how you're coping. And over the next 4 weeks, what we'll be doing is giving some tools and tips to help make sure you've got the strength and the resilience to keep on going. So I'd like to say big thanks to Andrew Kurian, the talent director in India, who's helped pull this program together, but most importantly to Vijay, who is giving us his time and his wisdom totally free of charge to help us through this. So huge thanks to you all, and I hope everyone enjoys it.
So shall I take over, Sam? Okay, so welcome and good morning or good afternoon to everyone, depending on where you are. My name is Vijay Bhatt, and I will be your facilitator for these 4 sessions over the next 4 weeks, the next 4 Fridays. So we don't have much time. We have only about an hour today and 30 minutes for the next 3 sessions each. Right now, we seem to have 41 out of 50 attendees, which is great. Thank you for joining in, as Sam said. So I'm going to share my screen and dive straight in, if you don't mind. So I hope everyone can see my screen. This series of resilience webinars is called How to Bend and Not Break, or another way to look at it, it's called Thriving Through Turbulence. So just a quick word of introduction to this series before we actually get into the content. This is something that I've been working with now for some time, for some years actually, and it's all come into sharp focus with the COVID crisis, the lockdown, the work from home, the social distancing, isolation, etc. So I'm very pleased to be given the opportunity to talk to such a senior group, such as yourself, in so many countries, and to get this message to spread far and wide among your teams and among your families as well. So all of you have voluntarily signed up and registered and joined this webinar, but it's quite possible that some of you are thinking to yourself, oh my God, another webinar and a series at that? Yes, it has been quite a phenomenon to see how many webinars are being offered these days. Everyone is trying to help each other out online using Zoom, etc. But we did feel when Sam, Anju, and I talked that this is going to be a critical input for many of you as leaders, people who are facing a lot of challenges on the work front, perhaps on the home front, and just dealing with the anxiety and the concerns that are ongoing. So we felt that it is important for us to design this as a journey rather than to just design it as a one-time intervention, which is why it's a series. Let me tell you how we have designed the series for those of you who may not remember Sam's email. So the first thing is that, what is the objective? We want you to feel equipped. We want you to feel inspired. We want you to feel motivated in what is currently a difficult time. And with that objective in mind, the way we have set it up is like this. Today's webinar, the first one, is an hour long. And in each webinar, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a framework or a concept. And today's concept is called Hardiness and Heartiness. I'll repeat that. Hardiness and Heartiness. I will explain that obviously. And along with each framework or each concept, I will be teaching you a tool or a technique that you can actually put into practice. So in today's webinar, I will be taking you through a 10 or 12-minute presence practice later on. So this is our webinar today. This is a foundation. This is to give you a sense of self-awareness. This is to give you a sense of where you are yourself. And then in the second webinar, which is next Friday, the concept or the framework that I will share is called 2 arrows. And the technique that we will work with is called the lotus of gratitude. Obviously, I will explain this in the next session, but this is just for your information as an overview. In the third webinar, we are going to talk about stress and immunity. And the tool or the framework that we will use is an online diagnostic that you can use to assess or evaluate your own level of stress. And the fourth webinar is really about how to sustain change. In other words, whatever we have learned during the webinars and between the webinars, how can we actually make sure that it becomes something that we are able to sustain over a period of time? And therefore, the tool that I'm going to teach or share is called Tiny Habits. It's a very powerful tool. All of them are very powerful tools. So I hope this gives you a quick sense of what we are going to be doing over the 4 weeks that we will be together. One last point is to say that all these tools and all these concepts are drawn from well-being systems around the world. So they're not drawn from any one tradition or any one system or philosophy. They are basically integrated from all around the world. So I hope that you will find them interesting and applicable to yourselves. Some guidelines before we start the content. Webinars are always a bit tricky compared to actually being in the same room and being able to look each other in the eye and talk face to face. And yet we will make the most of the opportunity that we have been given. So the most important thing is that today's focus, and in fact, the focus of all these 4 webinars is you. It's you as a person. It's not you as necessarily the role that you perform as a CFO or a CEO or a business head. This is not about your workplace primarily. This is an input and an intervention for you as a person. So my invitation to all of you is to take off your work hats and really immerse yourself in this experience as an individual, as a human being. I think you will get the most out of it if you do that. The second is that at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you will see a button called Q&A. And if you click on that Q&A button, I'm just going to click on it so that everyone can, or you can click on it and see that you can actually key in the questions that come up for you as they arise. So as I'm speaking, as you are going through whatever you're going through, if any question pops up in your mind, please use the Q&A button to input that question. And I have requested Anju Kurian to keep track of the questions and to let me know at the end so that I can make sure that we answer all the main questions at least, if not all the questions. The third is, as you know, in Zoom, there is a chat box. And for those of you who can't see the chat box, you may have to click on the 3 buttons which say more at the bottom of your screen. And then there will be a window that pops up where you can click on chat. And once you click on chat, you'll be able to type in your comments. Since this is a webinar and webinars can get very one-dimensional and very one-sided and very boring, I don't want that to happen. I want this to be as far as possible and engaging and an interactive webinar. So we are going to be trying some new apps, and I have a couple of my colleagues who will be helping with these new apps. Bear with us. It may take a little bit of time to toggle back and forth between the apps, but I hope that you will find them to be interesting and useful and engaging. The second last point is that, we have 50 people dialing in from maybe 20 countries, and we are all interacting on one platform called Zoom, and millions of people are also interacting on Zoom at this very moment. So sometimes there might be call drops or tech glitches. If this happens, please be patient. We will try and be back up as quickly as possible. And the last is to say that, we're going to talk about personal matters here. And I want you to know that as far as we are concerned, our team is concerned, all the topics that are discussed here are confidential. All of you know what Vegas rules are. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. So we will do the best we can to maintain this confidentiality and this privacy. Having said that, if some people have not been able to attend today's webinar, then they will want to see a recording. So I have taken Samantha's permission to record all the webinars and then make them available to you. So if somebody misses a session and wants to catch up, they can do so. Or if somebody wants to go over the same material once more, maybe a week or a month later, that should still be available to you. So with those guidelines in mind, let me begin. So I'm going to ask everyone, I'm going to ask my colleague Aditya actually to paste in the chat box. If you open the chat box, you will see that there is a link that has been pasted there. And I invite everyone to copy and paste that link from the chat box into a new window on your browser. And I will share with you, I will then tell you what we are going to be doing. Let me just check if anyone is struggling to do that or anyone has not yet been able to do that. Just put into the chat box, just type in and say, sorry, I'm struggling. Otherwise, I'm hoping that everyone is able to copy and paste this link and put it into your browser. When you put it into your browser, you should be able to see a screen that looks like this. And what you have to do is you have to basically put in what do you think are your dominant emotions. In one word, what is your dominant emotion regarding the COVID crisis? And you can put up, each one of you can put up to 3 such replies. And just remember to put in one word only so that it's possible for us to actually view. And I'm going to do that now so that you can all see my screen. And see what is really emerging from this group. Okay, I think we finished about a minute. So I'm going to request if anyone has one more word to put in, please put it in, and then I'll lock the screen and then we will save this and I can share this with all of you. But it's quite obvious as we look at what's coming up here that anxiety, uncertainty, worry, panic, stress, these are the common things that seem to be coming out. But at the same time, I'm happy to see that there are also emotions like grateful, positive, reset, silver lining, gratitude, hopeful, anticipating. These are also things that are coming through. So it's very common that at a time like this, we are going to be caught between a whole range of emotions. And I wanted to give everyone a chance to just simply express what is going on for you, and also to know that you're not alone in what you're feeling, that other people are feeling the same things as you are. There'll be a side that is feeling quite negative and quite concerned. There'll be a side that is feeling perhaps hopeful and excited about the future. So I'm going to lock this screen for now, and I'm then going to go to the next screen. And the next screen is one where I'm going to ask everyone to do exactly the same thing that you did just now, but this time I want you to consciously focus on what might be the silver linings or the upsides of the current situation. So I'm hoping that all of you can see the next screen, and just like you did now, can you please put down what do you see as the silver linings or the upsides of the current situation? I'll give you about a minute or so. Just like the last time, each one of you can put in 3 entries. Okay, a few more seconds. So we are seeing some wonderful themes here: family, reset, new, appreciation, opportunity, time, connectedness. What else? Togetherness, adaptation, collaboration. There's some things like gardening, dogs, home, space, foods, pioneering, preparation, a new me, recharge, assessment, improvements, reconnections. Well, thank you for that, because it starts to tell us one of the key aspects about building resilience is to co-hold both these sides of ourselves. So with your permission, I'm going to lock the screen, and I am then going to go back to my PowerPoint. And really say that, what we noticed when we actually look at both these sides of ourselves, that there is a side to myself which is anxious and concerned, and that's a valid and a legitimate part of me. At the same time, there is another side of myself which is positive and hopeful and enthusiastic about the future, and that is also a valid and legitimate side of me. And one of the key aspects of resilience is to be able to co-hold both these sides of me at a time when I tend to lean towards the negative because of all the media, because of all the things that we are seeing around us. So how can you find a way to co-hold both the negative sides and the positive sides of yourself is a very important learning, at least for me. Let me tell you a story. This is an old story. This is something that probably most of you know. This is the story of the oak and the reed. There was this huge, magnificent, strong, powerful oak tree near a riverside. And this oak tree used to look down upon this reed, this very thin, very humble, very small reed that was half in the water and half on the ground. And so the oak used to always look down with some amount of pride and some amount of arrogance even on this humble reed. But the story goes that when the mighty storm came, the oak was toppled, but the reed survived. And so I want all of us to just remember this story, because right now when we are facing the storm, it tells us that we can actually have two kinds of reactions. One reaction is to be like an oak, be strong and be tall, but also let a certain amount of rigidity and a certain amount of pride creep in. And the other is to take the attitude of being like a reed. And the attitude of being like a reed is to make sure that we are able to, at a time like this, also be flexible and humble. So those of you, by the way, who are still on the poll screen, you may want to get that off and make sure that you're seeing my screen, my PowerPoint, in case you're not doing it. So the question, therefore, about resilience is, what can we do at a time like this to cultivate a certain amount of flexibility and a certain amount of humility, given what is going on? And if we are able to do this, paradoxically, ironically, we might be able to survive the storm. Now, this concept of resilience is not a new concept, obviously. Resilience has been there since time immemorial. Humankind would not have reached the 21st century if we were not resilient, if we had not faced all the setbacks that our species has faced from the very early days. And so resilience is a subject that has been researched and learned and taught and experienced by many people. What I'm going to do today is just perhaps put up one or two important points for us to. I'm sorry, I just got a message to say that currently you're seeing my poll screen. So let me just see why that is the case. And let me get out of that. And let me check if you can now see my PowerPoint. So Anamika, can you just send me a message on the chat in case if someone is not able to see the screen? Okay, great. So I presume that all of you can now see the PowerPoint screen. So I was talking about the levels of resilience. Oh, sorry. So you can't see the PowerPoint. Okay, let me just stop the share and restart it. Please give me a second. Don't know why this is happening. Just give me a second, please. Anamika, Neeraj, is the PowerPoint visible now? Okay, great. Thank you. So I want to talk a little bit about the levels of resilience. Most people think of resilience at a very foundational level. They think of resilience as primarily being about endurance, which means our ability to withstand the shock of any kind of an event that takes place, a life event. Can we endure? Can we withstand the shock? But that is only the basic level of resilience. There is another level of resilience which comes after endurance, which is called recovery, which means really our ability to bounce back from the setback, just like the reed bounced back from the setback. And the third level, which most people never really talk about, is perhaps the most important one, which is called the level of transformation, which means that not only do you withstand the shock, not only do you bounce back, but you actually grow from the experience. That is called transformation. So in my book, building resilience is not complete if we can only endure or if we can only recover. Resilience is only complete when we use this adversity or the setback to actually grow from the experience and to transform ourselves. Now, an important thing to remember, of course, is that each one of us is different. Each one of us is an individual. Each one of us has a unique background and personality. And therefore, by definition, resilience is both personal and subjective. So it's important when we are working in an organization to recognize that resilience is personal and subjective, because sometimes we expect our team members to be as resilient as us, or we expect our family members to be as resilient as us, or we expect our partners and suppliers to be as resilient as us. And it's more likely than not that they will have their own levels of resilience. So until you actually engage with somebody, it's almost impossible to determine what someone's level of resilience is. I'm just going to take a moment to look at the questions so far to see if there are any questions. Okay, great. No critical questions right now. Okay. So what I want to talk about briefly is this concept of hardiness and heartiness, which I mentioned earlier, which is the core concept that I want to speak about in today's webinar. So this comes from the work of two very well-known researchers called Henry Dreher and Suzanne Kobasa. And they describe hardiness as being made up of three elements. The first element is control. How much control do you have, or how much influence do you have over your life circumstances, and how confident are you about exerting such an influence? I'll explain each one of these in a moment, but let me finish all of them first. The second is called commitment, which is that are you committed to a meaning and a higher purpose beyond adversity? So that is the, sorry. The third is called challenge. And as you can see, there are the three C's, and there is a fourth one as well. Challenge means, are you willing to see the problem not as something that you submit to, but something that you can reframe and actually improve? And so if you have a strong sense of the three C's, control, commitment, and challenge, then you are likely to have what is called a hardiness quality or a hardiness trait. But for me, when I read this some years ago and reflected on it and tried to see how to apply it in my work, I realized that there was one important piece missing. And I have added that piece in, and that piece is called heartiness, which is it's not just enough to be hardy, it's also important to bring your heart and your compassion into it. And so what I have done is I've taken the liberty of adding a fourth C. And this fourth C is cooperation, which is having exerted influence, having found meaning and purpose, having determined myself to improve the status quo. How do I leverage the collective resources that I have around me, whether it is internal resources or external resources, through an attitude of cooperation, so that I am able to bring both hardiness and heartiness to whatever it is that I do. Now let's take each one of these one by one, and I'll give you an example of these. What I want you to do now, and again, I'm going to exit my screen and I'm going to ask Aditya to, just like he did the last time, I'm going to ask him to copy paste a link in your browser, which is in your chat window. And again, what I would like all of you to do is I would like all of you to copy and paste this link into your browser. And this will take you to our website, where there is a very short resilience quiz. So I'm going to give you the chance to actually assess how resilient are you in that quiz. So there are 12 simple questions in that quiz. It's based on the 4 C's. It should take you about 3 minutes to do. And I'd like everyone to complete that quiz, and then I'll tell you what we're going to do next. So take 2 to 3 minutes to complete the resilience quiz. So a few people have sent me messages that you have completed the quiz. And if you have completed the quiz, you would have seen your result immediately. If you have seen your result, and you would either get a red smiley, a yellow smiley, or a green smiley, which corresponds to low resilience, moderate resilience, or high resilience. So what I'm going to do is on the screen, on the Zoom screen, I'm going to launch a very short poll so that you can actually put in your data. If you got a red smiley, you please click on low resilience. If you got a yellow smiley, click on moderate resilience. And if you got a green smiley, you can click on high resilience. So let's just get a quick round of polls, and I will share the results with you. So we have a sense of what does this group look like and feel like when it comes to resilience. So right now I can see that 32 out of 44 people have voted. That means another 11 people are probably still completing the quiz. So let's give you a few more seconds. Okay, so we have 35 people who have already voted. 36, that's good. Maybe another 30 seconds, and then I will end the poll and launch the results. How fascinating. So about 85% of you have voted. Still a few more to go. Okay, so I'm going to end the polling here and then launch the results. I hope all of you can see the results that I'm sharing on my screen. Basically, what it is showing is that 76% of you have come through with a score of moderate resilience. That's by far the dominant score. About 20% of you have high resilience, and only a small percentage of you, about 5%, only 2 individuals have low resilience. So just a couple of comments here. This is a very short, informal, quick quiz. This is not something that is very deep or statistically significant or anything like that. But just to give you a sense that there are ways in which you can actually measure or gauge or assess your own resilience. And it's obviously possible to improve and strengthen your resilience, which is what we are going to be doing in the next part of the session, in this session, as well as in the 3 sessions that are going to come. So I'm going to stop sharing the results now, and I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. Now it's almost 10:20, so allow me some time to get to the next part of the session, which is to do the presence practice. Again, let me just check in while I'm doing that. If any one of you has any questions that has come up for you, please type them into the Q&A box, and we will do the best we can to answer at the end of this. So let me begin. I'm sure many of you have heard the phrase VUCA. And with the crisis and with what we are facing right now, the VUCA world just got much more VUCA. For those of you who don't know what VUCA stands for, VUCA is an acronym. V stands for volatile, U stands for uncertain, C stands for complex, and A for ambiguous. So you can see how the world, which was already VUCA before the COVID crisis, has just become much more VUCA during the COVID crisis, and may become even more so as we go forward. So the question for leaders, and this is the question I ask all the leaders that I work with, is to say, at a time like this, what is your anchor? What is your refuge? And what is your oasis? In other words, when the world is spinning you around, when life is spinning you around, when your work is spinning you around, where do you go to? What is your go-to place to find that centering, to find that grounding, to find that calming, anchoring place? Most people have something or the other that they do. But what I would like to share with you is a 10-minute practice which I have created and which I have taught to literally thousands and thousands of leaders around the world. They all find it very useful. So I'm going to take the opportunity of walking you through this presence practice and guiding you through this presence practice now. This will take about 10 minutes. And so I'm going to acknowledge that some of you might be saying to yourself even now, hey, I don't have 10 minutes. Come on, do it. Can I get it faster than that? Unfortunately not. It will take a little bit of time. So I invite you to please bear with me for the next 10 minutes while we do the presence practice. So all you have to do here is to follow my guidance. You don't need to see your screen or anything like that. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And I'm going to ask everyone to sit comfortably in your chair. Put both feet firmly planted on the floor. Get the small of your back touching the back of the chair, which means that your spine is erect. Loosen and relax your shoulders and neck. Very often that is where we carry some tension. I invite you to close your eyes. And I invite you to simply follow my guidance for the next 10 minutes or so. Settle into your chairs. The foundation of presence is a relaxed body. I invite you to scan your body from the top of your head down to the tips of your toes. And as you scan, if you come across any tightness, tension, stiffness, just relax that body part and let it go. Keep scanning. Not only the muscle groups and the limbs, but every internal organ, tissue, muscle, all the way down to the cells. Become fully aware of your body and keep relaxing it as you go. When the body is so completely relaxed, your attention will automatically go to your breath. I invite you to pay attention to your incoming and outgoing breath. Just notice every inhalation and every exhalation. You don't have to regulate your breath in any way. You don't have to speed it up or slow it down, take it in through one nostril, out the other, nothing like that. Just observe your steady, natural, rhythmic breath. As you inhale, your abdomen will rise. As you exhale, your abdomen will fall. Just do that for a couple of breaths. Inhale, abdomen rises. Exhale, abdomen falls. Observe keenly. Even breath is the first signal of presence. The second signal of presence is a clear, calm, and quiet mind. I invite you to bring your attention to the screen of your mind, like you're in a movie hall and watching a movie. What's playing is all the thoughts, all the scripts, all the programs that are running in your mind, and you watch them from a distance. Don't get involved with them. Just observe what is rising and falling on the screen of your mind. And then, just like you would do with your computer screen, if there are lots of apps and programs and scripts running, I invite you to go and click on that little red cross and shut down each app, each program, each script, each thought that's running in your mind. Every window is closed. Do it kindly, do it gently, do it firmly. Restore your mind to its clear, calm, quiet, and pristine position. The third signal of presence is an open heart. Remember, we talked about heartiness. I invite you to bring your attention to your chest area. And I invite you to become aware of your physical heart pumping away in your chest, pumping blood to every part of your body, basically keeping you alive. Get in touch with the persistence and the warmth of this physical heart. It's been beating away from before the time that you were born and will continue to beat away until the time comes for us to pass on. And now the emotional heart, the place from which we connect, we engage, we relate with other people. I invite you to open that emotional heart and establish a heart-to-heart connect with everyone who is on this webinar. However far they may be from you in physical distance, you know each other well, you work with each other, you work for the same organization with the same vision. Feel that heart-to-heart connect. The fourth signal of presence is your sensitive sonar. I invite you to become aware of all your 5 senses and send them out into the environment so that you may pick up the subtlest of signals, things going on around you. Can you be aware of the firmness of the floor under your feet, the softness of the chair that you're sitting on, the warmth of your palms on your knees? Maybe there is the hum of the air conditioning wherever you are sitting, or there is a faint breeze. Be fully and completely context aware. This is a very crucial leadership skill in a crisis. The fifth and final signal of presence is called energetic induction. Each one of us has a unique energy field. We vibrate to a unique frequency, and that energy field extends a few inches away from us. I invite you to extend and expand that energy field inch by inch, like you're blowing a balloon. And since all of us are at home, let's expand it so that we can include the people in our family or in our home, people around you, and allow yourself to be included warmly in their energy field. Keep expanding that energy field so that you may include more and more people in it, and feel a sense of community and togetherness at an energetic level, not just at a proximity or a biological level. Let me quickly walk you through the signals of presence once again. Relaxed body. Check that your body is relaxed. That's the foundation. Even breath. Check. Clear, calm, quiet mind. Check. Open heart. Check. Sensitive sonar. Check. Energetic induction. Check. Now I'm going to call out 3 affirmations, and I would like you to say them out aloud wherever you are after me. I will say one sentence, then you repeat. I will say the next sentence, and then you repeat. Let's begin. The reality of this moment, please say aloud to yourselves, is that I have nothing to defend. The reality of this moment is that I have nothing to promote. The reality of this moment is that I have nothing to fear. The only reality of this moment is that I am here now. The only reality of this moment is that I am here now. Just allow yourself to settle into the sweet spot of pure presence. Notice how your internal state has changed. Notice what the state of presence feels like. And make the strong intention to be able to access this state of presence whenever you need it, wherever you need it. Remembering that it is always available to you, right there inside of you. When you're ready, please open your eyes. Come back to the here and now, the present. And if you want, you can rub your hands like I'm doing, the back of your hands, your arms, your legs, your torso, your scalp, your face. And welcome back. I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint now. And say a little bit about what's going to happen next in our next few webinars, because it's already 5 minutes past 10:30. I know many of you may have other things to do, and I want to, those of you who have other commitments, I want you to be able to leave in the next minute or two. So I'll quickly share what's going to happen in the next couple of webinars and ask you for some quick feedback to this one. So my request to you is that I would be really obliged and grateful if you can do this presence practice once a day, every day through the month of May. Today is the 1st of May. I'd like you to do it until the 30th of May. And to help you with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you the audio recording of my guidance. I'll send it to Sam and request that Sam can share it with all of you so that you can download it on your phones and you can do it once a day. I promise you at the end of 30 days, you will find that you are able to access this state of presence very easily. It may not even take you 10 minutes to do so. We talked about the 4 C's, that is control, commitment, challenge, and cooperation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you a worksheet after this. Again, I will do that through Sam. And that will give you a chance to reflect for yourself about the 4 C's, and you'll have a space to maybe put in a few comments. And I will invite everyone in the next session to share a little bit about their experience of completing this. It's a very short worksheet, so don't worry, it won't take you very long. But I'd love for you to complete that and we can discuss it in the next call. It's very important for me that you take this message back to your teams and families. The whole thing about resilience, about endurance, about recovery, about transformation, about hardiness, heartiness, about presence. Because it's not enough for you to become resilient. It's also important for you to be a role model for others when it comes to resilience, both to your teams and to your families. And for the next session, I'm also going to send you a little bit of prep work that you have to do, which will take you about 15 minutes. Once you do that prep work, then our next session, which is an even shorter session than this one, only 30 minutes, hopefully that will be productive. So these are the 4 items that I would like to remind you about, and I will send you stuff between now over the next day or two. Definitely by Monday, you should have all this stuff. And what I would now like you to do is I would like you to, in the chat box, if you can click on the chat box, I would like each one of you to put down one sentence of what was most valuable for you from today's session. And as you are typing it, I'll have a look. And those of you who have other commitments, we had only planned for 1 hour. I realize that we are a little bit over time. Those of you who want to exit, please put in your one sentence and then you are free to exit. We will meet next Friday. But those of you who want to stay on and have me answer some of your questions, then I'm happy to do so, to stay on. But those of you who need to exit because you have other things to do, please go ahead and do so. So please type in your feedback into the chat box. Just a one sentence on what was valuable for you from today. While you're doing that, I'm going to look at the questions and oh, I'm not sure why chat is disabled. Let me check on that. Hold on a second. Can you try now if chat is working now? Sorry about that. Thank you, everyone. Looks like the presence practice, the resilience survey, the co-holding of the negative and the positive in ourselves. So some really nice, valuable insights. Yes, such an important point. We tend to care for others and forget about ourselves. Let's be conscious about our own presence. Yeah, Anju, I have enabled the, I'm not sure why. Right now it should be that everyone should be able to chat. Okay, so again, just to let everyone know, right now we still have about 34 attendees on the call. I know that we are behind time, Those of you who need to exit because you have other commitments, you're please welcome to do so. We look forward to meeting again on Friday, next Friday, same time. But for those of you who want to stay on a little bit, and I'm happy to try and answer some of the questions. So, Anju, can I check in with you? What do you think are the main questions?
So yes, we've got actually, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So there are actually two clusters of questions that I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm.
One is on the resilience quiz that has come up,
Mm-hmm.
and the other is on the presence practice.
Okay.
So on the resilience quiz, the questions, I'll put them all together so that they might overlap in answers.
Yeah.
So what is the norm on resilience quiz?
Mm.
And what should organizations look for? That's one.
Mm.
Then does low resilience mean a weak leadership?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's one set. And then second one is on the resilience is, can you improve your resilience consciously?
Mm. Mm.
Therefore, how do you work on it?
Mm.
The third being resilience versus responsibility. Many times there are contradictions between responsibility and the resilience. And how do you cope with it? So this bit is on resilience. And on the presence practice, I think they're very specific points, which is Fen felt that she went into a different zone of half alert, half dreamy.
Yes.
Wants to know whether this is really what you feel like when you do this practice.
Yeah.
And another point is that a feeling, a tearing during practice, again, is this normal?
Yeah.
So I think these are two sets of questions we have, two clusters of questions.
Thank you, Anju, for clustering them. Let me respond to the second set of questions first, which have to do with the presence practice. Well, the presence practice is a very individual experience. So each individual will respond to that practice quite differently. And so every response is okay. So many people report that they feel as if they were in a trance, or they felt as if they were not in their body, or they felt that they were in a completely dreamy kind of a state. So this is quite natural. This is quite normal. So there's really nothing to worry about with that. What it basically means is that perhaps you have been quite tense and quite stiff in normal life, and when you're allowed to relax and when you're allowed to go deep into yourself, you hit that particular state of presence. So I see that as a positive thing, not as a negative thing. So please go ahead and experience presence. So that's my first comment. Similarly, when somebody said that they teared up, that's also quite common. And the reason is that in our day-to-day lives, we are so highly strung and we are so highly wound up that we don't have a chance to connect with our deepest self and feel the love and compassion and warmth and caring that exists there. So when you do the presence practice, you're in touch with your state of presence, and sometimes there is a evoking of emotions like compassion or like joy or like peace, and that can cause sometimes tearing up. So again, very natural. Don't worry about it. I see it as a good thing to be in touch with your emotions and maybe even your vulnerability. So let me take the second set of questions, which have to do with resilience. So see, there are well-structured instruments and approaches to actually assess and measure resilience in individuals and in teams. So if an organization wants to go down that road, there are ways in which one can do that. But for me, the more important thing is not so much at an organization level, but at an individual and a team level. And for that, what I find is that a good deep discussion around the 4 C's. How are we feeling about control? How are we feeling about commitment? How are we feeling about challenge? How are we feeling about cooperation? I find that as a facilitated conversation or as a facilitated discussion to be perfectly adequate. at a time like this when you don't have the time, the resources to go for a long and deep and detailed organization-wide survey and things like that. So I would say that if you look at the little worksheet that I'm going to send you after this session, it'll give you an idea of what are some of the areas to discuss and articulate internally with regard to those 4 C's, or with regard to hardiness and heartiness. And for now, I think that that should be enough. If later on you feel the need as an organization, either in one country or across the region, that you really want to go deeper into this whole area of resilience and set up benchmarks and compare by country, by market, and so on, it's possible to do so. But right now, my feeling is that's not necessary. And you can do it through just having a facilitated conversation. The second question in that section was, does low resilience mean weak leadership? Not necessarily, in my view. See, at a time like this, when everyone is under a crisis, yes, we would expect that leaders should be resilient, that leaders should have the endurance, the recovery, and the transformation, that they should be hardy, hearty, and so on. But I think it's very important for us to recognize that as leaders, we are also human beings. And we are dealing with the same concerns that everyone else is dealing with. And on top of that, we have our leadership responsibilities to deliver. So actually, my opinion is that it is perfectly okay for leaders to be vulnerable and to be authentic about their vulnerability. Vulnerability is not low resilience. Vulnerability is not weak leadership. Remember the story of the oak and the reed. And so I like to remind myself that at a time like this, I may have a responsibility to others, but equally, I need to be conscious and aware and authentic about my own vulnerability. And I need to make myself humble at this point in time, acknowledge that I might be having some challenges myself to deal with. And when you do that, paradoxically, it's a sign of strong leadership and not weak leadership. So actually, I don't see low resilience as weak leadership, as long as it is authentic and it is its vulnerability and it is well communicated. So those would be my answers. Anju, have I missed anything that you would still like me to say something on?
No, I think it covers the third one was resilience versus responsibility.
Yeah, yes, thank you. I don't exactly understand what that means, but I can try and paraphrase that. The way I would understand it is to say that as my responsibility increases, it puts greater pressure on my resilience. And that is true. That is true, that when our responsibility increases, when our stress levels increase as a result of that, when the pressures increase, it puts a great load on our resilience. And all the more reason why we need to find those internal resources of control and commitment and challenge, and then the external resources of cooperation to be able to help us at a time like this. So yes, greater responsibility creates greater pressure, but all the more reason why we need to be more equipped than less equipped as our responsibilities increase. So as we become leaders and as we play for higher stakes, our resilience naturally has to be greater. Yeah. Anju, anything else?
I think that answers it. No, I think this is a set of questions. I don't think I missed out anything.
Okay. So as of now, I can see that there are still 36 participants, 26 attendees and the panelists. So I just like to say thank you to everybody. We will send you some materials by Monday that you can take forward. And I very much look forward to your joining the next 3 webinars on the coming Fridays. With that, let me say goodbye, farewell, and see you on Friday. Thank you, Anju. Thank you, Sam. And thank you to my team at the background who is helping on the text part.
Thanks, Vijay.
Thank you.
Sam, any closing comments would you like to make?
No, I think it's been brilliant, and seeing the people stay on. So thank you, VJ. Hugely appreciated. So you'll send me the stuff by Monday, and I'll just forward it on to people.
That's correct. All right, guys. Bye for now.
Have a great weekend.
Thank you very much.